one of the biggest mistakes we made 30 years ago when we moved into a democratic South Africa is not prioritizing ECD. Truth is, the earlier the better. In order for human beings to be well-rounded, well-prepared human, you're doing an evaluation in order to contribute to the learning for the whole ecosystem.
Hi, welcome to the Exchange podcast, where we dive into stories of system orchestrators and their journey of exponential change. Today I have with me Preeti, who heads networks and partnerships at C4EC, and Grace, who's the CEO of SmartStart. Hi, welcome Grace.
Thank you.
Grace, if you could just briefly tell us about who you are and your journey till you got to SmartStart. And after that, we'll dive into stories of SmartStart and your work at SmartStart.
Yeah, good morning and thank you for having me.
Good morning.
I'm Grace Matlhape. I come from Johannesburg, South Africa. I think of myself as a social entrepreneur, as an innovator around some of the world's most intractable challenges. That's what attracts me. I started my professional life as a mental health professional. So I even worked in a psychiatric hospital for a few years.
Right.
But that was an environment that really developed a deep interest in me in understanding, the depth of struggles and despair that people live with and what drives that. At that time I was working in an environment where you establish a strong relationship with one individual and help them through their challenges. But it became very clear to me very soon after that there's so much more in our lives that influences the way we end up showing up in the world. That's the thing that attracted me to the world of social justice, really, which is how I see myself these days as well.
Perfect.
And Grace, I've been working with you now for a year or more, and I'm just always curious about why ECD? What was the problem that you saw in ECD that really mattered to you so much that you moved into SmartStart? And what is the landscape of ECD in South Africa?
Yeah, so it's also slightly personal in that before I got into ECD, I worked in HIV prevention. So South Africa was really deeply impacted by HIV and struggled a lot to understand again those drivers of HIV risk. It was obvious to us, I was in HIV prevention, so it was obvious to us that just building awareness, telling people the facts, it's not enough. There's so much more that influences the decisions people make, in particular, the things that make the risk of HIV worth taking at a certain moment. And so, we working with young people, there was that big thing I was aware of, that I'm still aware of. That's about how we are wired, how we think, how we show up, the self-esteem, the pressure of context on people's lives, the pressure of the things that they have to deal with in their own lives, and, just making risk worth taking.
Right.
And so I did not conceptualize SmartStart, but I was invited to be part of SmartStart by my predecessor in my previous job. And, the way he put it was, him and I had always been in search of how can we get to young people early enough. And the truth is, the earlier the better. In order for human beings to be well-rounded, well-prepared humans for the challenges that life will present, not just challenges, but to present opportunities for life, for human beings, like really getting to the bottom of what lies as potential for every human being that's born. And so, I was attracted to ECD and I read up about it. It's like overnight. And the following day I woke up and I thought, why didn't I know this? Like it's so obvious that some of the world's biggest challenges can be prevented or solved right early on in a human being's life. And so, I joined SmartStart as a massively new, completely in someone's brain's new startup.
Yeah. Which is great because you've kind of entered this as with a complete beginner's mindset, right?
That's right.
Open to as many possibilities. And you've just said it so rightly that all the problems we are trying to solve in the world later on in life is because we haven't solved the problem of ECD, right? And and it's so critical that we need to look at the early years in a more broader lens, not just as learning, but care, development, and
It's a foundational time, right? So
that's right. Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of information also about what pans out in our lives today in terms of mental health, trauma, everything comes back to your early years. And so thank you for doing what you do. And I'm so glad you made this shift into the early childhood space.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah.
So, speaking of young people, there's one game that my colleague Shrikar kind of planned for us to do. And it's something that we should get into right away.
Okay.
So this is the game of Pictionary, which is essentially we pick out a word and draw that, and the person who's drawing, the other two people guess, right? So I'm going to start with Preeti. These are essentially words that we picked out from the work that you do. It's not typical words from Pictionary. So Preeti, this is your word, and here's.
So I draw, and who guesses?
Grace and I will. Yeah, Grace and I will guess.
Okay, can I? Sorry.
Education. Early
childhood education.
That was easy. Okay.
Not for the person who's drawing.
Yeah, of course. Okay, I'll pick one. I don't know if I'm going to be. Okay, this is tough.
Moving from one to another. Shift.
No. But it's a process of doing something.
Development, learning.
No.
In a sprint, is it?
No,
it's nothing to do
with the sprint.
Okay.
Something to do with the work that Grace does, but it's a model.
Social This looks like one box.
No, I was distracted too.
Replication.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's all.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. What do I have here?
No, don't say it out loud.
I don't know how we're going to do this anyhow.
Connections, community, networks. Is it around networks? No. Is it ecosystem?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And this is what she drew. Oh, ecosystem. All right. Amazing. Thanks, Grace. The other pieces, I wanted to kind of unpack is how you have had these mindset shifts of becoming the spokesperson for ECD. And I think Preeti kind of started that conversation. And I want to just go back to your time as a mental health practitioner, and you kind of call that out as well. How do you kind of see yourself having evolved in your own head and to see yourself reach a point where you're saying, no, this is what I really want to do, and this is where foundational problems are?
Yeah.
So, that's the interesting journey that I want to be able to unpack. So if you could just take us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that like a few pathways into that, like just my way of thinking about myself. I think the one way of thinking about it is that journey is a journey that started with interest in human beings, one individual at a time. And over time, I have seen that there's enough commonality in the problems that people are struggling with. That actually the best way to approach it is in sort of collective terms.
Right.
And then even within, so from a mental health worker who focuses on establishing a relationship with one individual and helping them with that challenge, to looking at what are the common challenges that groups of people experience in society. But actually beyond challenges, what are the opportunities? What could we be focusing on that just changes the future for the better?
Right.
But over time, I think my more recent way of thinking, as I started to work with C4EC actually, is not just thinking about myself and my group of people, my organization, as one solution, but how could multiple solutions impact a problem better? Working at an ecosystem level where what brings us together is our common commitment to the problem, rather than trying to drive one solution for challenge. That feels like one of the most, for me, a most pivotal sort of shift in the recent years, actually.
I remember of one conversation we were having, and you also mentioned that the social franchising model could be one way of doing it.
Yeah.
And that was a aha moment, I think, even for us. Like, they're like, yes, it's that there are many more possibilities, like you said.
Yeah.
So going on that, I just feel like now that we've been on this co-traveling journey together, and there has been this shift. I remember, Grace, that one of our first few sessions when Sanjay was drawing out the graph. And on the x-axis was, on the one side, there was systems resources. On the other side, there was SmartStart resources. On the y-axis on top was being an orchestrator and influencer. And bottom was being an implementer. And I think that diagram, we were all like, saying where we thought, and each one had a different idea of it, where you were orchestrating. You also have many partner organizations. So you were orchestrating a bit, but everything heavily dependent on you. Right. And so can we just talk about your thinking from where we started and where we are placed now? And
so let me start by telling you just very briefly the SmartStart journey, the journey of the organization itself. So it was clear when we started, we are an implementer. We are implementing a set of solutions to solve the challenge of access to quality early learning for children. And in the early years already, we realized that this is a deep problem. As I said again, it's much more than just about setting up new supply, which is what we do. We recruit unemployed women. We set them up to deliver quality early learning from their homes or centers around where they live. A very powerful model. We have evidence of good child outcomes coming out of it. We even have evidence of, ability to replicate and to grow this model. We really can. We grew from very small number. We're now at large numbers of franchisees across South Africa. However, the thing that just stood in the way of progress, the way we had envisaged it, is that behind the challenge of ECD in South Africa really is poverty.
Right.
What predicts exclusion of children is the fact that their parents cannot afford to pay the fees, and the practitioners in their communities cannot afford to get registered with government because it requires so much more capital investment than is available in those communities. So that means that the poorest children are the ones excluded. The poorest entrepreneurs who deliver quality are the ones that will never get funding from the state because they'll never register. So it became clear that you're working with a problem that is held in place by a system that isn't shifting in the direction of children. So we had to, we needed at that point to work with government. In a way, we're starting to work with government to say, this is how we are understanding the biggest excluders of children in South Africa. Started to shift us from just being an implementer to influencing policy in a bigger way. And once you work with government, you are confronted with, if you are doing the things you do as part of a government partnership, you have to give up attribution. That's right, exactly. So it's no longer about SmartStart. Yes, it's now about what is good for the country. And so that journey of shifting from implementing to influencing and attribution to contribution starts to open up. So, so now you are in partnership with government. Government is interested in all solutions. So are we, because what we want to do is to try and solve this problem. And so I can actually see how we started to shift from that implementer to influencer. But the platform itself is a partnership. So we work in partnership with other non-governmental organizations throughout South Africa who have very deep local knowledge of the communities that they focus on, but also really deep knowledge of early childhood development. They themselves bring models that work. And so that in our work with them, we really have also been an orchestrator, right? But, orchestrator within a defined network. But it's just when you sit back and observe what has happened in the last few months, our work with this network of NGOs, our work with government has just started to shift us from that focus like head down to head up, and how we are able to impact the whole country, not just with SmartStart solution, but multiple other solutions available to us.
So that's wonderful.
No, what was interesting of what you said right now is how you move from attribution to contribution.
Yeah.
I'm coming in from an outside-in perspective. I just want to understand when you move to being a contributor, and I think, and this is the marketer in me speaking, when you give up on attribution, you'll give up on a lot of measurement as well. I'm assuming so. If that happens, how do you kind of validate for success?
Well, I mean, there's a big sort of evidence person inside me that just struggles with the idea of giving up on measurement.
Yes.
Like, absolutely not. There's no way that we give up on measurement. But the mindset shift is that you are not doing measurement. You're not doing your evaluation in order to prove that your model works.
Right.
You're doing an evaluation in order to contribute to the learning for the whole ecosystem. But we have to continue to build evidence. We have to know that the things that the things that we are investing so much energy and time on are going to get us, first, they're going to get us child outcomes at scale for all children in South Africa who are excluded.
Right. Amazing. The other question that I had was, because one interesting conversation that I was having yesterday with Stephanie from BRAC International was that, and I feel that it's a little circular. And I feel when I hear you speak, I sense that if people are in absolute poverty, education is something that, and if you're focusing on children to be educated at the right time, it's the ability to get them out of poverty and graduate out of poverty. But at the same time, because they're poor, they don't have the right access. So how do you kind of solve for that circular problem?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the opportunity in the early years.
Right.
So even though the parents of these children are still in poverty today, they know what they want for their children. And all parents we've spoken with realize how important education is for their children. It's when things like affordability of that education is keeping children away, then the poverty will hold children in poverty. Poverty will hold them in poverty, really.
Yes.
And so that is the opportunity we have. We have to get the children who are in the poorest context, all children, but really favoring the most excluded. We've got to get them out of poverty through the early education. All children are born with powerful potential, and that is the moment that they still all as equal as you can get human beings to be at that time. And that feels like the most powerful opportunity for us to achieve the change we want.
I think also the opportunity that you unlocked with what you were saying, with all parents aspire, have aspirations for their children, and they want a different life from what they have experienced, and how you've seen that as an abundant factor in your work, and use that to get all the women, as many women, to in any space to run an early childhood learning center. I think that was a wonderful model that you have really unlocked, right? So taking care, ensuring that the mother is also earning and is able to provide, and also is, her child is also able to learn and have access to early learning.
And then drawing from the unemployed women to make sure that they can make a livelihood from doing one of the most powerful public services anyone could do. So you can see that as a triple impact, impacting the parents, enabling her to go seek employment, impacting the child in the long term by investing in the human capital development, impacting the entrepreneur who's running the prison from their home, and making sure that they make a livelihood from a life of unemployment and poverty to actual real revenue generation in their homes.
Can you tell us a few stories of any of your practitioners or your franchisors who sort of shifted their life? It's made, they've seen so much of difference in the way they live now and what this means to them.
Yeah, so there are so many stories. I mean, I have met women. So this one, and this is a real name. Her name is Sibongile. Sibongile was in her late 20s when she joined SmartStart in the early years. She had been unemployed for a while. And when we met her, she just lost her husband. So she was rather destitute. We met her. We put her through the matching process, which is our own screening process to make sure that this is the right person. And all it's like a 4-hour process. She was really quite emotionally low. I mean, she had reason to be. She had just lost her husband. She was unemployed. And she had, I think she had 3 children, 2 or 3 children at that time. So she was excited to be part of the SmartStart. But I remember her because she showed up with so much unhappiness, like the absence of joy in her whole demeanor. I went to visit her site about 3 to 4 months after she had been set up. I was hosting a few partners that wanted to see what SmartStart looks like in the field. And I was blown away by just, I am a mental health professional. So I see that very quickly, the whole, mental health. That's right. Yeah. I was blown away. So the sentence I'll never forget that I heard from Sibongile was, a few months ago, I was a nobody. I'm using her words. She says, a few months ago, I was a nobody. And since SmartStart came into my life, I am visible in this community. Wow. People come to me for advice about their children. Now, clearly, she isn't really an expert in 3 or 4 months, but the belief in herself, that for me has always stayed with me. So needless to say, I continue to go and see how she's doing. And, she hasn't grown as fast as many others that I know. Others have grown much faster from being a practitioner with 6 children in one classroom. Many others had now built a 2nd classroom and a 3rd classroom in their backyard or moved into a church hall in the neighborhood. Sibongile has grown. She's employing 2 practitioners now that are running. One is running the one class, the other one is a part-time assistant and a cook. Like she's building an enterprise. These are the stories we hear. We hear stories. We meet people
Amazing.
who are not passive beneficiaries.
Yeah.
We meet people who are active agents of change, first in themselves and in the communities that they serve.
Thank you so much for sharing this.
Yeah, it
Makes
is.
everything so worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
All the work
Yeah.
worthwhile.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, Grace, if we could just kind of go back to you for a second and to see your journey and when you witness these pieces, and it's so important for you to be able to learn from the stories of kind of struggle and move on and see that how have those things kind of affected you as a leader, and how many of those things have you been able to imbibe and bring back to SmartStart?
So the first one is, when I joined, I did join with that sense that, I'm changing the world and so on, that arrogance. And then being met with such power, such unrecognized power that lies in these people in the communities that we serve, that they first show up not as beneficiaries, as I say, but as partners to work with us to enable access to quality early learning. That changed me completely as a person. And that is something that has helped SmartStart, especially in our journey with C4EC, to start thinking of the unemployed women in South Africa that we work with, the homes that they bring, all of that as assets that we work with. As you were saying, Preeti, this is the thing that when I started to work with C4EC, you put it into words as making the abundant effective and the scarce irrelevant. That's such a was such a powerful naming of the things I was seeing and the things that were changing me. And these are all of the assets we already have in South Africa. There's massive numbers of unemployed women in South Africa who love children, who have the proper potential to be a teacher and an agent, and seeing them as the asset that is in abundance to work with. It has been a really powerful transformer in me, like transforms my own thinking and the way I've approached my work. But I think SmartStart's whole approach, again, of each one of those people is a node of investment to reach more and more parents who themselves are a node of investment to reach more and more. So you start seeing how replication actually is driven by people who have the conviction.
Right.
Yeah.
Like a dandelion.
That's right. It's exactly dandelion. It's exactly dandelion. Another thing that I credit C4EC for making me aware of.
Yeah. Speaking of your journey with C4EC, it's I think a question to both of you because I wasn't there as a part of that. I think you've been through the sprint process and you kind of engaged with C4EC on those bits. And I think during one of the sprints you kind of went through, you were discussing uncertainties.
Yeah.
Yes. And when you talk about uncertainties, and I also say that as a tether to your goal of 2030, what are the kind of major or most significant uncertainties that you kind of unpacked that day? And this is a question to both of you, in fact, not just...
Why don't you start, Preeti?
I think it was interesting when we said, the mission was want to reach all children in the 3 to 5 years, especially those excluded. Because I remember one statement you had made when we were presenting long back. You had said, we are scaling, we are growing, but we're really not reaching the children we need to reach, right? It's constantly growing and there's no problem with that. So SmartStart didn't have a problem. You didn't need to disrupt anything, right? That stuck with me. And I was like, yes, like we see numbers doubling, but you're really not reaching who needs it. And then when we started unpacking that, especially with the focus on those excluded children, and we looked at the challenges and the uncertainties that lie ahead, it seemed like so many. And then we started crystallizing and came to like the 7 challenges.
Yeah.
And like you said, the top challenge being unlocking, making it, we wanted to unlock the informal sector because that's an abundance.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. If you unlock that, you unlock love, you unlock opening homes for centers, and the heart is open, the space is open.
Yeah.
I think that was
The other one, if I remember well, was the area, I think we identified a doubt at that point around political will.
yes.
Remember? And that is such a powerful thing for me right now to remember, because that's the one thing we had started to see shift in South Africa.
Yeah.
It probably was always shifting through the work that we were doing, but not evident.
Yeah.
But suddenly in the last few months, I know you were asking us about what the uncertainties are, but this one has become a bit more certain.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, I think that's the shift that you'd like to see as well.
Exactly.
How uncertainties shift to, well, I don't have to worry about it anymore, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It's a really powerful
Correct.
thing to behold in South Africa, how through the work we've done with the Department of Education and others, not just SmartStart, really, other organizations that have been working with the Department of Education, how it is all beginning to converge into this powerful, first, very evident political will, with statements from the President of South Africa saying things like, one of the biggest mistakes we made 30 years ago when we moved into a democratic South Africa is not prioritizing ECD. And then in the same month, presenting ECD in South Africa with the biggest budget investment we've ever had. Like just really immediately putting his money where his mouth is. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. That used to be a big uncertainty pass, and now it's begun to look like something more certain.
And when you talk about convergence, when you talk about everything moving into a direction, is it now becoming a movement where you're able to see shifts happen and where you're able to see that this is something that is foundational for a country's growth as well?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. When we were imagining building a movement for early childhood development in South Africa, we thought that SmartStart would be at the center of it. We would be a force. We're part of it. But really, it is coming from all directions, and it is a movement. We just have to be cautious that we don't see ourselves speaking on behalf of people, but rather create a movement that everyone can be a part of and they can speak on their own behalf.
And I think quickly you should tell everyone here about what is in store for South Africa for the next 5 years. What is the government? What are you thinking? What is happening?
Yeah. So we've been working on how do we close the gap in access to quality early learning for, in particular, the excluded 1.3 million 3 to 5 year olds. We all accept that we need to be focusing on 0 to 5, but as a start, 3 to 5 is a real important opportunity, certainly for an education response to the early years. And in our work with government, that has involved a number of things, including making sure that the current legislation is amended so that it enables that. So we currently have someone seconded to government, to the Department of Basic Education, helping to finalize the amendment, the Children's Amendment Bill, ready for parliamentary debate. It involved opening up opportunities for practitioners to register wherever they are. The biggest opportunity for us there was making sure that those practitioners I was talking about in the poorest communities can register their programs as they are. And that they'll then be supported in partnership with government to improve the infrastructure so that they can be registered and funded by the state. So, and a few other things. There have been processes around a whole drive to professionalize ECD so that it can be attractive for new entrants into the job market and be a profession that grows, and many other parts of the ECD challenge that other people were working on. in the last few months, with the new government of national unity, we saw momentum like we have not seen. The new minister in the government of national unity came on board and she said, I'd like this to be translated into a roadmap to 2030, which means we want a real path to universal access to quality early learning by 2030. That's what has been happening. So we had a leadership summit a few weeks ago. And as I was saying, that was the place where the president declared his, misstep in not prioritizing ECD. And the Treasury announced this massive investment in the budget, which is not enough, but is a real powerful first step.
It's a big move.
That's right. It's a big move. It's like really saying we believe in this thing. We have confidence in the leadership that's in place to put this money into good use for us as a country to get universal access to quality early learning. So amazing time.
Yes.
It's such a perfect...
So hopeful.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect way to segue into, well, because we have limited time, to segue into just, if I could get reflections from you both on what the way forward is, and Preeti from you on how you can probably now collaborate with Grace a lot more, and how we can build and co-travel on this journey with SmartStart. And Grace from you on, I mean, of course, the conversation was great. I mean, I don't know whether I could possibly sit and reflect on this, but at the same time, if you could just give us a little bit of, insight into, if everything goes well, and assuming everything has gone well, and if you could imagine yourself sitting in 2030 and you've achieved everything you need to achieve, what are the key things that you've seen happen to see that I know I've achieved this, and what does that look like?
Yes.
I think for us now, at the juncture, like she said, we are at, I feel that we are completely embodying the societal thinking model.
Yeah.
When we speak about we cannot do this alone, and I think that was evident in our journey, and that we need everyone to come together. How do we all co-create and build this ecosystem together so we all are moving, up and up together?
Yeah.
I think that also with the same similar values that we walked into the room with, and to see how you have, was wonderful to see that how everyone else in the working group for the roadmap also hold the same values and the same beliefs. So we are all on the same page. I think that is wonderful. And the other is that looking now at what do we build together to hold all of us within this, what is that infrastructure, or what are these capabilities that we build? I think I can see that
Happen.
actually as a visual in front of us.
Our journey with C4EC has just been the most amazing thing. Really, really, totally. And what pleases me deeply is that C4EC will continue to be part of this journey with South Africa now, not just SmartStart. That's just such a powerful thing, because I think what you bring is, like tangible evidence of what's possible. Like you have real examples of societal shifts that have happened in this, very special way, in ways that, there isn't, it's like a convergence of minds and hearts and will in the direction of the same goal. So I think about 2030, and I don't know where I'll be, somewhere in that ecosystem, seeing South Africa where that embraces various ways of getting children access to quality early learning, properly recognized by the state, with very powerful evidence of child outcomes, with measurable evidence of contribution to GDP economic growth brought by early childhood development. Because, I think that evidence, continuing to build the evidence, just continues to crystallize and makes what we are doing more and more sustainable, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I see that. And I see the possibility of us totally influencing the way early childhood development is approached and done in the global south, as we learn from other countries like us, growing economies, sharing also our lessons with those countries and creating major possibilities for future generations. That's what I see.
Amazing. When you first encountered this challenge, and I think we did speak briefly about it, what were the emotions that it's stirred within you? And I'm talking of the time when you specifically saw that shift within you. What is that? What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, I mean, as you were asking the question, immediately I connected with anger. There's a bit of anger, like, how could we allow this kind of thing to happen? Like, how can it happen for so long? Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Yeah.
That's perfect. You don't need to dive deeper into that. And the other question that I wanted to ask you is, which elements of these problems, if reworked, could serve as a foundation for a better future?
So we now have evidence. So we know that if we do certain things, we'll get child outcomes. And we now have evidence of policy commitment, let's say, sort of political commitment and policy that will follow that. What we need is that movement that, like, shifts us into a unified ecosystem, and like that is not based on everything being the same. Like shifting from sense of uniformity to unified, like. You don't have to be uniform to be unified.
Unified, not uniform.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You see, I have these words. They are so alive.
It's the first thing I ever heard when I got to, and I kept wondering what it means.
Yeah.
But over time, it means so much. And so many different things to different people. And it's been amazing to see that just shifted me as well.
These words are amazing because they are
completely.
You first experience them, and then you remember that there's a phrase for what I'm feeling. Yeah. So it really is the movement building. It's the movement building. It's the connection. It's the diversity of those solutions. It's the whole societal shifts. It's as we emerge a narrative again that will connect us as an ecosystem in South Africa.
Thank you so much, Grace, for doing this. And it's been absolutely eye-opening for me. And I will... now, I think based on the conversations I've had, I'm going to just start working with each domain a little bit, just so that I can unpack this for myself a little bit more.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grace.